So if you're watching here on Zoom to participate and share your stories, or if you're watching on Facebook today, we're getting people together to share stories from the blizzard of 1978, which we're focusing our photos and a lot of our memories here on Springfield and Clark County, but we know that it affected the entire country. We've got a special guest here today, a local weatherman, Dick Graber, that we thought a good way to start this program would be for him to explain what happened. But I wanted to give you a little bit of background on Mr. Graber first. If you guys are from this area and you listen to WBLY and Smilin' Bob, you might remember Dick calling in throughout the years to share the weather report, but he's also shared it at many other places. He is a member of the American Meteorological Society since 1958. And the National Weather Service granted him cooperative weather reporting status in 1996. And he's the first Clark County weather reporter as of 2000 to join the Community Collaborative Rain, Hail, and Snow Network. So we know Dick well because he's a volunteer here at the Heritage Center. He's a docent and he works at the front desk, and he's been with us for many years. And we know that Dick is the local weatherman. And if we want to know what the weather is going to be for the upcoming weeks, we know that he can tell us, and he's very accurate, and we know what to prepare for. So I know that that's what I always start with when I see Dick. I say, how's the weather going to be this weekend? Because he works on Fridays. So Dick, I thought you should start to kind of explain to people why the blizzard of 1978 hit so hard most of the eastern half of the country.
Okay, Natalie, I'll start here. I sent an email over to the American Meteorological Society. They granted me emeritus status with them on my membership this year, and I got on their quorum network. And I sent out an email a couple of days ago about the blizzard, and they sent me some people sent me some comments that are members of this also about the blizzard. Now, there was some question about whether the blizzard of 1950 was worse than the blizzard of 1978. Now, all the comments that I got, what I remember from actually recording and reporting for the newspaper and for the radio and all that time around January 1978, that the blizzard was actually was worse than the blizzard of 1950. Now, the blizzard of 1950 did cover a fairly long period of time, did give us a lot of snow. It covered a large area. Now, the blizzard of 1978 started out as a low pressure area down around the Gulf of Mexico. And it intensified as it moved northward through the southern states up to the Ohio Valley and the Great Lakes region. And we have just learned this year that the Weather Service calls this type of a storm a bulb cyclone. Now, what that is a rapidly intensifying low pressure system that developed, and the pressure drops real sharp over a short period of time, which intensifies the winds. It causes sharp temperature differentials as it moves through the area. And this was our one true bulb cyclone as it moved through from the Gulf of Mexico up through here. Now, start on Wednesday, January 25th, 1978, with temperatures in the mid-30s and rain falling over the area. Now, after the low pressure area moved to the east and northeast of us, the pressure differential started to increase, and the winds increased with it, and the temperature dropped sharply behind it. And it also changed the precipitation from rain to blowing snow, and lasted for several hours into the 26th on Thursday, and it ended on Friday the 27th. Now it dropped several inches and dropped the temperature from the mid 30s down to below zero over that period of time. And the winds were up around 55, 65, and in some places recorded up around 70 miles an hour with this, which could cause strong blowing and drifting of the snow. Now, you have to remember, this was back in 1978, and this was before cars and the highway department was really ready for this type of a situation. And what happened is that the area was completely stalled because of this. The roads were blocked. The snow was so deep and intensified and covered a lot of the cars around that were parked on the streets. And there was no movement. There was hardly any antifreeze back in those days. And you can remember back that far. And so what happened was that the National Guard was called in to help relieve the situation. And a lot of the stores were closed during that time, and people could not get food. And the radio personality that I was giving my radio weather reports to at the time was Bob Young, Smiling Bob, and he was on the radio all during that time on WBLY. And he was telling people what to do and how to stay calm, and that help would be on the way to relieve the situation at least a little bit. But the situation was treacherous at that time, but very intense, as I said, with a sharp temperature drop and these gusty winds and the amount of snow that fell. Now, it wasn't for about another week or two that we would be able to get ourselves dug out of this and get back close to normal because of the size of the situation. Now, this was just not local. This was over the whole eastern United States. Now, on my forum that I gave my report to, a couple of people one from down in North Carolina and Virginia said they had the same situation down there. And they had what they called the storm of the century. And another people called it was one of the worst storms that they could remember. And so it was really, it was worse than the storm of 1950, which I had some people ask me about. And so I was through both of them, actually. I was 6 years old with the storm of 1950. And it was a deep, heavy snow. And I was only about 3 or 4 feet high about that time. And it was about over my head almost as I was walking through it. And the storm of 1978 was more intense and covered a wider area. Now, the Great Lakes and the Ohio Valley, but I don't know if it even got down to the southeast. But we did have that. And so that's basically what I have to present tonight, is that this was, if you can remember back in those days, and you probably have a lot of memories of it, that this was intense. And I had a wind gauge that I recorded winds around 60 to 65 miles an hour. Now, the Weather Service said they recorded winds up around hurricane force over at Vandalia. Now, my recording was in the city, which was kind of localized. It calmed down a little bit because of the city situation. But in the open country by the airport in Vandalia, it was a little bit more open, so they got stronger winds out there. And I visited the weather station at Vandalia several times, and so I knew this where they were out there. So that's what I have to report here. And if you have any questions, I'll try to answer them.
Well, thank you, Dick. That make a lot more sense. The huge drift pictures and things that you see of you know, how I don't think the actual snowfall inches were that high in this area, but with, you know, 60, 70 mile an hour winds, and I hear people talk about just how bitterly cold it was. So, you know, you've got the huge drop in temperature with that on top of it. And I heard people tell stories of, you know, their cars freezing to the road for days at a time with more snow just piling on top. But we've got pictures from our own collection, and from a lot of you guys will recognize from the Springfield News Sun special, the month after the storm that they released for people. So let's see. I'm gonna switch over to my slides. Can you guys see them okay? And
Yes.
all right, so I'm just gonna go through here. We didn't start with our normal slide. This is being recorded, and this time we're live streaming on Facebook. The chat function is always available, so if you want to ask or make comments in the chat, we'll try and monitor that. But you guys can unmute throughout to share any stories or anything that you've heard from other people too. It doesn't have to be your own story. And this is going to be recorded, and it will be up on our Facebook and YouTube in the following week. And we'll also share the recording from last year, so we'll have even more information and things that you can see. But Dick talked a little bit about the difference between the 1950 storm, and I know there's still people, a lot of people around that remember that, and 1978, being that 1978 was more intense. But I know that our 1950 is our famous, brought us our famous Snow Bowl event where the OSU was playing its snowy annual Michigan game that year in a whiteout blizzard. And the 1951 fell right after Thanksgiving. So we've got a picture of the two here. This is the aftermath of the storm in the 50. You can see all the cars buried on limestone. We've got the News Sun building down here on the right. And then over here, you can see now the Heritage Center building. This is probably at the height of the wind portion of the storm. And this was what was released on the special section later. But I thought I'd get a little bit of an idea of who we have here with us today. I've got a poll, new things that we're trying here. We did this on our last program. We put up a poll question to see who we had with us. So we've got a question here. We want to know if you remember 1950, well, if you remember both storms, or if you really remember neither of them. I know I'd like to see who we've got with us today, so we'll leave that up for a few. Looks like we've got a small amount that remember both 50 and 78 fairly well. The vast majority of you are here to share, hopefully, your stories of your experience in 1978. And some of you are like me. I always tell people when I do these programs, I am not a time traveler. I am actually not old enough to remember either storm, but most of what I always share with you guys at these programs is from our archives and from your guys' memories and stories that I've heard talking to people. And that's what I really enjoy, is hearing other people's experiences. So I'm just here to hear your stories. So I hope we can get some good stuff recorded today. This will be a good, nice document of that past that you guys will be able to share. So we've got here our the emergency edition that came out on the 26th. This is a special free issue from the Springfield News Sun. It's got that picture that we had on that last slide of the city building and the blustery snow. This says the intense blizzard which swarmed the city during today's early morning hours created scenes like this for motorists throughout the Midwest. Dropping temperatures followed Wednesday's showers and turned roadways into sheets of ice. The rain turned to snow, and accompanying winds made driving more dangerous for the few who braved the violent weather. And a month later, at the end of February, the Springfield News Sun put out this special blizzard edition, which I know of the things that we get offered the Historical Society for our archives. lots of people offer us copies of this special section. So I'm just curious. I've got another poll that I thought I'd pop up. Do any of you guys still have? Let's see.
The first poll is still up.
It is. I thought I removed it. Here we go.
I only see the.
You guys see that? Do you guys see the new one?
Yes.
All right. I'm just curious how many of you still have them. And this is where I'm going to say, if you still have it, thank you. We do not need another copy. But it has been very handy to be able to scan and share pictures for these programs the last 2 years and to have them around. Looks like there's a handful of you that have it. A handful of you decided to get rid of it at some point. That's okay. You know, it's probably made its way to us possibly. I know there's some people that say they wish they had one. I do have to say, if there's someone around that were to offer one, I would say I will take one to my house and have it. I wouldn't mind having one, but it's a neat little souvenir of that time. So end the poll, share the results with you guys, and this time I'll figure out how to get this off of there. Can you still see it? Are the results still up on your side? Okay. So
it's gone.
It's gone now. Okay. See, this is what this poll thing is new to us, to see how long they stay up on here, but we thought this was a new way to interact with people throughout. Lisa, we might grab one for you for Wright State to add to your collections then. I know you guys have the Dayton Daily News collection and a lot of pictures there. That's where we get a lot of ours. So these are some bits from that special section where they break down, you know, how 1977 compared to 1978 as far as how much snow and the temperature. And I thought it was really interesting that it had been 50 degrees at the beginning of January, kind of like we had some much higher temperatures this year at the beginning of the year and at the end of December. And then it was 33 degrees in 1977 on January 26th, but Dick had said that we had temperatures in the 30s the day before the storm in 1978. So just shows how quickly that all can change. So one thing that they had in the special section was a lot of thanks from the different businesses, ones that helped people get through the storm. And so this is kind of a little time capsule of things. Fulmer's was there for people, all the different grocery stores that people could make it to and people could get to help get supplies to others. But I wanted to get into the, when we got the Springfield News Sun collection in 2013, we were lucky to get a lot of original photos that we hadn't previously had in our archives. And that was where we finally realized, hey, these are all the pictures that they took for the special section. And it appeared in the paper throughout the month after the storm. So we've got a couple of the originals here that we thought we'd share some of those. And this is where we really would like you guys to jump in and maybe share more details if you know. This one here is at Limestone in Maine. Does anyone have any idea who that might be working there? I imagine that must have been somebody working for the city that was helping to clear the sidewalks there. And then you see over here, 1978 was when they had already been the demolition of the core block. So you can see in this picture the fence here on the left-hand side where that work is going on. Here's one that we have out in the county on Crable Road, Iselma Pike. The Haleys probably didn't get their mail for a little while. I don't know if anybody lived out in the county that can talk about how that might have compared. I know that the drifts were very high out there in some areas.
My father lived on the corner of Broad Gauge Road and Route 54, and he has or had pictures, I don't know what happened to him now, of pictures of snow as high as telephone poles across from his house. All you could see was the very tip top of the telephone poles.
That's amazing. And I mean, just we know now that what it takes to keep the roads clear for the city and the county to keep everything clear. I couldn't imagine how, I mean, we had a lot of people, neighbors helping neighbors that were, you know, able to get out their snowmobiles to help people. We've got pictures of that. Here's one. I'm not sure which street this is, but we have someone trying to dig out their car here. Oh wait, this is Emery Pankey. So I guess we probably could go back to the directories and figure out where he lived. But I don't know if anybody recognizes this one. A lot of the other street scenes we've put up, people have been able to recognize. But
we owned Carmichael Appliance at the time, and I was in Iowa with my daughter who just had her baby, and I called the store, and she said there's no answer, and I said, oh, ring again, you know, it's a business, it's open, there's got to be people there. And no, she said, no answer. And then I called the house, and my husband said, we were having the storm of the century here. And he tried to walk, he got my son ready, and they tried to walk to the store. It was about 3 miles. And I said, who do you think would have come to buy something if you had gotten there to open it? But they got about a block from home, and they said they realized they couldn't do it.
were they out on Belmont still at that? Is that always the location?
Yes, they were
Yeah.
out on Mitchell Boulevard.
Okay. This guy here digging out his car, I heard stories of people that would go out and do all the work to try and dig out their car, and then a plow would go by and cover them back up. So I imagine that was kind of a challenge for people for several days to get through that. Lisa Binkley says that they lived out on New Carlisle Pike and that the drifts were up to their 2nd story windows. Man, Lisa, were you guys even able to get out of the house there? Can't imagine that. And I say out in the county would be even harder to get to people. I know that those are some of, if you listen to, we've got just a few clips from WBLY and Smile and Bob that we shared in last year's program, but the entire recording's about an hour and a half's worth of Smile and Bob and other people from WBLY on the radio trying to talk people through, like, getting them help out. And a lot of people were calling in because they were completely trapped out in the county, unable to get anybody out to them. So they were, you know, people saying, you know, I've got a 4-wheeler, I can get out to them, getting supplies, helping people out. So you heard a lot of that, and that's something we'll share those recordings separately again later, so you guys can hear those. They're all on SoundCloud. This one here, I recognized it right away when I first saw the picture. If anyone knows Springfield streets, this is off of Englewood, up off of Limestone. And you can see how buried all the cars are and the street is. And I love those street lights there. I don't know how long ago those were removed, or if there's any of those left around town, but I never noticed them. But those are pretty. Lisa said that she had her 19th birthday and was having a sleepover with 8 girls. Was that the day that everything, on the 26th, when everything got shut down? That's everybody stuck there. Pete Seiss says, I dug my parents' parking out on West Pleasant, and as soon as it was done, one of our lovely neighbors pulled right into it across the street to his apartment. A fight over the parking space that you've cleared. Oh, I'm not sure what. Here we go. I just was wondering, we've got another poll here for you guys to try to see if you guys can guess just how much snow fell in this area. I'll put this one up. Launch it, see if you guys can guess how much snow we had in the Dayton Springfield area. I'll end it. Share. Looks like, let's see, most of you said about 15 inches. Some said 19 and a half inches. Some said 17. But the actual answer, which you would not expect, is that it was only 12.2 inches. Which I find, I don't know if Dick Graber, I know he was having some trouble. He managed to get back on right now, but, oh, I see, he is there.
Yeah, I'm still here, Natalie.
It was, it was
It
amazing
wasn't
to me.
that deep, actually. The level of snow that I measured in my backyard was only a few inches. And the drifts, because of the winds, made it look a lot more. Now, I measured about 4.5 inches in my backyard on a level ground. Now, the drifts were about 2.5, 3 feet just in my yard there on North Limestone Street. But it varies so much around the area, it was really hard to tell exactly how much it was. It was almost impossible to get an accurate measurement of the snow because of the wind drifting the snow so deep.
We've got a picture here showing some boys out on near Catawba, by the 54 sign out there.
That looks more like South Vienna area.
South Vienna. They both 54 runs through both of them. I brought it up. I forgot which one that. Yeah. So, but some. I remember when we shared this one online, people identified the house behind it exactly. They knew that. Yeah, that was South Vienna. So sorry. Yes, this is South Vienna. But I imagine if you were a kid at that time, this was a lot of fun. Maybe if you were an adult that was trying to get to work, or someone that had to try and feed your kids, or someone who might have been sick, it wasn't a lot of fun to deal with. But if you were a kid, it was probably a bit like heaven, because they were out of school for a couple of weeks too, dealing with it. Got a few more. Here's some side by side of the one from the paper. And when we put this one up online, people knew right away that was Tom Lookaball and the neighbor's dog, Boogie, that they hitched it up to a toboggan so that they could go down to the pick and pack, I think off of McCrite, to go help get deliveries to people. I thought this was and then we've got, this one I recognize right away because we used to live on McCrite. This is further down where McCrite turns into Mitchell, that church on over by International Harvester, which would be over on the left there. But you can see this must have been days after the storm. I mean, people can drive through it, but you can see it must have looked like this for a while around town. I know that out at Young's, whenever we would have whenever there's a big snowfall recently, they have their big snow pile of that they push the plow out there, and then they have people guess how long it'll take the snow to disappear. How long did it look like this? I mean, was there more piling on top of this with other storms, or?
There was some other storms, but they were less intense, and there was only just a few more inches added on to it. This was the big storm of the season, and it didn't really warm up enough to start melting it until you got into April and the last part of April for it to really start melting and to get down.
Was there any flooding from this? I know now we still, you'll see Snyder Park area get flooded out, and the expressway alongside 4. Did you have that as things were melting? Does anyone recall?
I don't think so, Dudley. No, we didn't have any heavy rains or anything to go on top of this to do this. Now, the only time that we had this was the big flood of 1979 that we just had an anniversary of just a few days ago. It was on January 21st, and we had about 2.5 feet of snow on the ground on that day, and the temperature rose sharply from the 30s into the 50s, and about 4.5 inches of rain come along, and that caused flooding. But this was a direct opposite in 1978. And we had the temperature drop after the rain, and the snow stayed around and just gradually melted off over the next few months with the rain, warmer temperatures gradually coming in.
I think you said 79. Did you mean 59? Because I know that there was.
Yeah, 1959. I'm sorry, Dan. Thanks for the correction. It was 1959.
I know.
Yeah, 44 years ago.
Yeah, we just shared some pictures of that, the 59 flood on our Facebook page last week, and I know that showed a lot of big flooding in downtown Springfield. So that made me think, we had all this snow, but good thing it didn't melt quickly, because then we would have had a flood on top of the 78 blizzard as well. Some kids got to be out of school for a while. You can see all the snow piled up at Snow Hill and Reed Elementary. The buses were all snowed in. Pete says he had just left the Navy and flown back to Ohio from San Diego right as the Snowmageddon began. His wife and 3 children at the time were on one of the last flights into Vandalia. None of us had ever seen snow before. What an introduction, Pete. My wife, who grew up in Mexico, looked out my parents' storm windows at the banks of snow piled up high and said, "I hate," insert curse word here, "Ohio." I can only imagine. That would not be how I'd want to be introduced to it.
I can say she was not pleased. She was not pleased for many days after that.
Oh, I can only imagine thinking, oh, we've just moved here. Is it always like this? Luckily, Ohio can be pretty bad weather-wise, but
well, I lived in Idaho for years, and it's a lot worse up there all the time. It was nothing for me. If she'd gone to Idaho, she'd have killed me.
Got some more from around town. This is out on High Street. Rich Rutan trying to dig out his house, and picture of the house today. To orient yourself to where you are. And then, sure, this is another South Vienna one. Doesn't look quite so high here. This might be later after things have died down some. And there's one good way of getting around. Paul Grubbs hitched up his tractor and helped people get around. He's got his wife and neighbors outside Covenant Presbyterian downtown, making stops at New Sun and grocery store to help deliver to people. So that was a pretty good way to get around.
That's a manure spreader.
Is it really?
Yes.
Yeah. Yes, it is.
Spreading the mature.
What a way to get around. Oh, I guess I should have realized that we do have like an older manure spreader on a display in the museum that looks very similar to that. And then, it was pretty. Might have been a little treacherous to get around. If you were a kid, it was great to play in, but I'm sure I hope people got to enjoy the beauty of it too. All the frozen trees and everything. This is one that when we shared it the other day, we had all of our Facebook detectives helped us figure out what the address was, or where we were. We could see the address here. And I had forgotten that if you go to the Clark County Auditor's website and start typing in the first few digits of an address, it will tell you how many of that exact address number exist and on which streets. So that's a good shortcut if you're ever trying to figure out, have a picture of something and you're not sure what street an address number falls on. The auditor's office can narrow it down, saying, there are only 3 1401s in the city of Springfield. So you can go check out on Google Maps which one looks the same. So our Facebook detectives figured out that this was 1401 Malden Avenue. And when we brought it up on Google Maps, house looks just the same, but just not buried in snow. So we could now go back and label this one in the archives. But yeah, they were pretty well buried there. This would have been over the area by where Meyer is now. What was there before Meyer? Was that like farmland? I don't know what was out on that area.
Yeah, we used to live on Brook Hollow, which was where Meyer and Walmart and all that were in that area. And there was before it was Monty's Inn to the south of us. And so that was all farmland. We used to have cows that would come up to our fence and eat the grass and leaves that we would toss over.
Well, that's hard to imagine now that Bechtel in that area is the busiest part of town, that used to be farmland. So this is a great one, probably, when we've got all that blustery snow. Anyone know where we're at here? What street?
Looks like North Limestone.
It's north Limestone.
North of McCright.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
I think that this still is a tax place over here on the left.
His daughter runs that now.
Okay,
John Cook passed away. That was John Cook's tax, and his daughter runs it now.
but still in that same house, right? Because I remember there's a tax
Yes.
sign over there. Yeah.
Yes, it is. Yeah.
So, yeah, this is a great.
And I think that house on the right that looked like a 2-story brick, I think that's got a sign out front that says the Lords, if I remember right.
Yeah, I say this would just be a little bit down from the Muffler Brothers now.
Exactly.
Yeah. So, great picture. How about this? Here's another one. Where would you have to be downtown to get this shot?
That's Laganda Bank in the distance, so it's looking north.
The First National Bank building.
No, that's Laganda Bank.
No,
So
I meant-
Huntington now?
Huntington.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I
Huntington Bank.
like the picture may have been taken from First National Bank building.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. Fairbanks or Whole Plaza, they call it now. Yeah, that would be, because this is metallic casket over here. And this is what, like W.R. Hackett in between. This is kind of the same. This is still open. This isn't really that much different. Although this building here is now where the parking garage is. The new parking garage.
No.
The one here on the right. This would be where the new parking garage is on Columbia and Fountain, across from the old Hume Hotel building.
Yes.
Yeah.
That would be, yep.
So neat picture. See a bunch of
You said that's
someone
north-
here trying to unbury their car here. This poor person.
Bob says that's North Street right there.
Yeah. Well, this would be Columbia, and then this would be north up further by the smokestacks. Then, yeah.
What's that one?
So I should. It's probably too late now. It won't line up. This would have been a good then and now one to send to the paper, because they could just easily have gone up to the Fairbanks. I might still send this to Bill Lackey and see if he can get a good then and now picture that we can share. Or maybe we'll see if we can still put this one in the paper just a little bit late. Another one, downtown view.
Monty's in. Oh, that building there on the left is where Ambiance.
That's correct.
Yep.
On your, you had that on your website.
Memorial Hall
The other day.
next to it.
And Memorial
Yeah.
Hall, you can barely make out Memorial Hall back there in the snow.
Yeah, you had a before and after on that just the
Yeah.
other day.
And that's the Robinson can back there.
Yeah, yeah.
A lot of this stuff was still here just a few years. I mean, this part of the building was still here within the last 10 years. And then you can see, I guess that would be part of the Crow
Crow
Collier
Collier
on this
building.
side. Yeah.
Yeah.
The building just past the Memorial Hall was Dietrich's Tire and Battery.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
John Dietrich's father had that.
All right. We've got a picture of that building. I don't think I realized exactly where that was in town. So that's neat. And then we had the people at WBLY are counting up the this is what I didn't understand much, that people were making donations. Was this just straight up so that they could go buy groceries to take to people? Was that how that was working? Because we've got here, they're going through some of the donations that came in the weeks after the storm. We've got Smiling Bob here, and I think that this was Dan Klein, I'm told, and other staff from the station. But I've got another poll question here. You guys want to know the money that they were raising in those 2 weeks after the storm, if you can guess how much money was raised to help people that were stranded or that needed supplies. Gonna end it. Share. Let's see. So we have majority guessed 26,000. We've got the next most we guessed 10,000 was raised. The next most to that was 18,000. But the answer is the one that only one person guessed was $42,237.78 was raised in the 2 weeks after
Wow.
the storm to help people.
That's a lot of money back then.
That was a lot of money back then. If someone has one of those calculators that helps you figure out for inflation, you can figure out what that's worth today. But that's amazing. That they did raise that in such a short period of time too. And
money.
Yeah, well, especially while everybody was kind of in this together, that they were still, people were still giving to help other people. That's pretty great to see. We've got a few pictures of we put up here. I don't think we had a definitive answer which grocery store this was. That was pretty depleted, like you see today when there's a storm, all the bread disappears and milk and eggs. Got the bread aisle here. A couple people guessed Kroger. We had Fulmer's. But not entirely sure. This one was one that wasn't labeled. But it says, please limit your bread purchase to 2 loaves on this little sign down here. And we had some of the people that were out there helping deliver. Brent and Ed and Mickey and David were getting grocery deliveries together looks like from Fulmer's. We got some Fulmer's bread loaves you can see there, and milk that they were helping get out to people. Jared said his wife and he worked at Fulmer's. Were you guys able to get to work okay at that time? I imagine it was hard to get staff there. I've seen stories of people that worked at the hospital having like National Guard members and people with 4-wheel drives coming out to help them get to work. But I wonder about other, today, essential workers, people to staff the grocery stores, if they were doing the same to help people get to work there. I have seen some good stories about people said they knew they didn't have to work for several days, so they just enjoyed it and got to party a bit. So,
Natalie, I was off work 2 weeks as a school teacher. So school was out, taught school in Kettering, lived in Enid. The school was out for 2 weeks. And we couldn't get off our street for a week anyway. I wouldn't have been able to go out of Enid anyway. And what Dick was talking about is that effect of that wind. I live now up near 30 miles northeast of Cleveland. I'm 100 yards from Lake Erie. And 10 days ago, we just had 15 inches of snow. But we had some wind, but it wasn't nearly what you had in the 78 blizzard. But it reminded me a little bit of the blizzard because it did drift quite a bit. I did the calculation on that money that Smile and Bob raised, roughly 180,000 in today's money.
that's amazing.
180,000.
Thanks, Larry, for figuring that for us. That's
I
pretty.
would like to say here, Natalie, that shore of Lake Erie up by Gaga County, just east of Cleveland, between there and Buffalo, is well known for having those big heavy snows, the moisture coming right off of the lake, and what they call lake effect up there. And that happens almost every year that they have that heavy snow. And you get that more towards Buffalo and just off of Lake Ontario up there. And so that's something that's really been known. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, the snow capital of Ohio is just about 10 miles south of me in Chardon, which is Geauga County. I'm in Lake County. And so it's pretty typical. And the big difference up here too is they've got the equipment. They have they've got the big plows and the big equipment. And you go to Lowe's here and the snow blowers they sell are humongous. I mean, it's just huge. So
well, I'm from Northeast Ohio, and I know that when I moved down here, that's when I realized they don't get as much snow down here, and they don't. we don't shut, but now everything seems to shut down when it's a little bit of snow. but I know that the driving and everything, that's what I realized. Yeah, there's a big difference between just a 2.5 hour drive down to the southern Ohio. But we've got one.
Well, go ahead, Natalie. Go ahead.
Oh, you go ahead. Well, I say this one here talks about which state do you think ended up getting the most snow during the blizzard? Got one more poll for you. See if you guys can guess.
That's a tough one.
No idea.
I'm going to close it in a second. We'll see what people think. All right. Looks like we had a tie between Indiana and Ohio. Wisconsin only had one guess, which when you think of Wisconsin, you do think of snow. But the answer actually was Michigan, because they had that lake effect snow. And there was a section of Michigan that actually ended up with 52 inches over the course of a couple of days, because they had 30 from the blizzard itself, and then they ended up with 22 lake effect snow that hit right on top of that. So they had the most. And then Ohio, the only listing I could find for Ohio was the Dayton area that had the 12.2 inches. So I'm not really sure how the snowfall fell in other parts of the state, but it seems like we maybe had gotten the bulk of it at that point. So close that
Natalie,
one.
I had an uncle that had a 4-wheel drive that the sheriff department had him going out picking up officers to bring into work. The sheriff department that couldn't get into the station.
Yeah, that was something that you heard a lot on WBLY, was people calling in and offering their cars and saying, hey, I've got a, truck, where do you need me to go? And they had a list of places where they knew people needed to get to and from. And they had a whole bunch of different numbers that you could call into if you wanted to donate money, or if you needed to get food, or if you needed help. So they were kind of, that was the whole how they were staging all of the relief for that. Here's another one out in the county.
That's on Yellow Spring Street and Leffels Lane.
Okay.
You can hit a switch and it will be a freezer or it will be a boiler.
So are we looking down Yellow Springs?
Yeah, towards Springfield. The KO station was
Okay.
right now was next to there's a bar called Chaps there now at the overpass of 70.
Oh my gosh, this is the overpass area.
Yeah.
So it's not there yet, or is it beyond this? No, the overpass was there by 70.
No, it's you can't see it, but if you're looking down Yellow Springs,
You may be standing on 70.
Yeah, there. Okay.
And then where that says that traffic light ahead would be the light there at Leffels Lane.
Oh, okay. Okay.
That's Sunnyland up there on the upper left-hand side.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
Up here.
Yep.
Yes.
Okay. Thanks, Marianne.
That's where I grew up.
How was
the price of that gas?
How was the snow out there? There in 78?
We were snowed in for several days, yes.
Yeah. Yeah, it looks like, well, gas is 5? No, 25?
I think it's probably 75, maybe.
75. Oh, it's covered by the snow.
No, yeah.
We've got a couple more here. This is plow going through out somewhere in the county, and Bob and Flossie just brought this one to me today. I scanned it to share this. Bob, this is outside your house at Washington, right?
It's the alley in behind our house, and the street going left to right is Sigler Street. And we had, I don't know, these people can talk about inches of snow, but you can see there how deep it is. You had to stick the shovel down in, break it loose, and then shovel it away.
Man, that's you there, Bob, right?
That's me.
See you in here.
And our son, Bill.
And yeah, that's a great, thank you for bringing that one in today. Michael Morris says on Facebook, said that last picture must have been taken from the 70 bridge.
Yeah, I think
looking down. So
Yeah, that's probably true. Yeah.
Yeah.
So that picture on the left, those snow drifts there, is similar to what was out on Route 54 where my dad lived, but they were higher. You couldn't even see the lines. Just the tip of the pole was sticking out the top of the drift.
Man.
Now, Bob, this picture on the right, if you go down that alley, is there a little house sitting back there?
Yes, there is. Or there was.
My grandparents lived in that for years.
Oh.
Benny and Jackie Carr.
Well, I don't. The name doesn't ring a bell.
Yeah.
But that doesn't mean anything. I got a short memory.
Their address was Washington Rear.
Oh, there we
It should be about 1727 or 9, West Washington in the rear.
Yeah.
Small world.
Yeah.
Amy Schneider just lost on Jeopardy.
Oh no. Sorry, I'm very sorry to hear that. The city of Dayton is sad for that too. We were rooting for her to win the break the record there. Oh, I think that was actually our last picture there.
That belongs to me.
That was the last one. So we have the whole section. This whole month we've been sharing pictures from it, which has been really fun to see people all the comments and stories that people have to share on there. That's something we'll be saving too, that we've been collecting. I've put them all in an album on our Facebook page so that you can see all of the pictures that we've shared throughout the month, because there's all sorts of great comments on there. And we'll probably end up eventually printing out a copy with all the pictures so that we can put that back in the archives that has people's blizzard stories that they've shared in the comments. And then we've got this that we'll be able to share to hear people's stories.
Abby,
This will
I'll
be
get with my stepsister. She's got all the pictures that my dad and stepmother had. If I can find those pictures of those drifts out there on 54, I'll bring them to you.
Yeah, that would be great. We would love
for your collection.
And they've been, I say, until we got the new sun, we really didn't have a lot of photos of the storm. We had some newspaper coverage, and every once in a while, a handful of photos will trickle in. But it's nice because I'm sure it's such a big memory for people if you manage to take a picture of it. We'd love to see those pictures. So,
Natalie.
Yeah.
This is Dan. I didn't get on from the beginning. I don't know whether you covered this or not, but I live out in the county on the eastern side, out towards Northeastern High School. And one of the bad things about that blizzard was that a lot of our rabbits and our pheasants and our quail were killed during that storm and have never recovered. That's part of the reason they haven't recovered.
Oh, that's very sad. That's something you don't really think about, how that affected, livestock and everything.
Used to see pheasants all the time, and then after that, it would be occasionally we would hear one. Now there are other reasons that affected too, but that was a big effect on the wildlife population.
Well, yeah, thanks for sharing that. It's a part of the story that, you don't really see anything about or think about. Jane says there's a question on Facebook. When are we going to air some local broadcasts? I'm not sure. Like in general, we don't have a whole lot of local broadcasts, but the reason that we have the WBLY recordings that we have are Smiling Bob Jance's grandson shared them with us several years ago, and we were able to upload those to SoundCloud with an audio station, and then we have we're able to share bits and pieces from that coverage of the storm. So we would love to have more things like that, but we don't really have a lot of like radio broadcasts or television broadcast things in our own collection. I'm sure that stuff's out there. I know that Dick Hatfield, he has a lot of stuff because he was with the radio. He has a lot of radio broadcast stuff that he'll share online in little snippets, and he's a broadcaster, so he sounds like he's on the radio way back when, even if he's just talking to you today. So
Natalie,
whenever we have stuff like that, we'll share it. Yeah, Bob.
Since we're on the subject of winter weather, we happened to drive through Ferncliff today, and you ought to see the falls in Ferncliff because they are gorgeous.
Are they frozen?
Oh yeah. Oh
yeah. Well, that's neat. We'll have to make sure we drive through there soon.
Yeah.
So I say it may be really, really, really cold right now, but there are some beautiful things out there.
Natalie, one thing about this winter, we're having highly variable weather conditions. Like one week we'll have it real cold, another week we'll have it real warm. That's what's happening between here and next week. And it'll be just back and forth this winter until it finally warms up here in the month of April. So we're going to have a nice thaw around Wednesday next week.
Oh, Wednesday. Okay, good to know.
Yeah.
Trying to figure out when I'd be able to feel my feet again.
Yeah.
So, well, thanks. Well, Dick, thank you again for sharing about the storm and for being our local weatherman. I'm always happy to get the weather report from you. And thank you guys for joining tonight and sharing stories. And we're always happy to hear more. I know this is a fun program to do and hear from people. So thank you guys out on Facebook if anybody's watching. This will be recorded and we'll have this out later for it to stay in perpetuity to share with people. So thank you
Thank you
guys.
for having it.
Thanks, Natalie.
Yeah. Thanks for having me and my comments. And I'll see you on Friday.
We'll see ya. Thank you guys. Have a great night.
Bye now.
Oh wait, I should say our I forgot.
I'm
Our
on
next
to Facebook too.
okay, is Facebook still on? Okay, yeah.
Still live.
Our next program is the 23rd of February. So it'll be about a month from now. We're going to do a partnership with the Springfield Promise neighborhood. We'll do some Black History trivia and a little bit of a preview of a program that they're doing with Hayward Middle School students. That's going to be an in-person program that they're doing, but we're going to get together to do a little bit of a virtual thing that before they have their live program. And then in March, our program is going to be cooking related. So we'll be sharing more details about how people can be involved in that, because we're hoping that one's real interactive and that people can share some of their cooking stories and things like that. Well, since we're still live on Facebook, I should also say, check out our other pages, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, where we share all sorts of local history. And if you would like to donate items, we will always take those. If you would like to make monetary donations, we have that link on our Facebook page as well. And we appreciate any support for local history so we can continue to share and preserve and do all of this for people. So we appreciate you all and hope you guys have a great night. Thank you.
Thank you.